Ladies and gents, yesterday was a wonderful day for Red Dead Redemption 2 because we got a crap ton of information regarding the single player, more details, some gunplay, and just a whole bunch of variety of interesting things. So without further ado, let's get started with the miscellaneous stuff. The map is open from the start. The world map will be covered by fog until you uncover it, and there's a camera in the game which you can use to take selfies with. Think of this like with GTA 5 where you could just, use your phone, but this will be a little bit different. For what the people told us from the previews is that you acquired this by playing a Stranger's mission, which are also back, but Rockstar says that they want to steer away from the traditional idea of side quests, instead dropping more meaningful, lengthy stories alongside the tale of Dutch's gang. You can also name your horse, and obviously I will be naming my horse Damn Nag as a reference to Jack Marsden always going, "Work your damn nag!" You can also drive the train, and clothing has more meaning inside the game. If you go in the mountains, you will have to dress warm, and taking off a bandana will reduce your wanted level a lot quicker. Arthur's tent can be used for fast travel, and if you lose your head or weapon, it will reappear on your horse's saddle. If you lose your saddle, it will reappear in a stable, or if you lose your head, it will appear as an icon on the minimap. The composer Woody Jackson is back as well to recreate score for Red Dead Redemption 2. He did the same thing for Red Dead Redemption 1. The score of that is fantastic. They claim that there is 192 separate pieces of score, and it's not including the ambient themes. So that should be another wonderful soundtrack for the game as well. And here's a big bombshell as well, because the entire game can be played in first-person mode. So that should be interesting, and I'm really hoping that they've done some massive improvements over the first-person mode in GTA 5, because it was a nice attempt, but they could definitely do with some improvements. Touching a little bit about NPCs, you can talk to any NPC, say hello, a phantom, but also Arthur can be often addressed or offended as well. People react to you when you're walking in dirty clothes or blood spattering from your last fight. In interactions, for example, you have the opportunity to settle the dispute, ignore it, to beat someone, or shoot him, if you can. You do all this stuff by having your gun holstered and then pressing L2 on PlayStation, and you get an interaction menu of what you exactly could do. You've seen it in the gameplay trailer as well. It should result in some very interesting things. Apparently, if you go through towns and you're like nice to everyone, you can even pet dogs, and if you're nice to that dog and you petted him, next time whenever you're doing something quote-unquote not illegal, he won't attack you or something like that. So the way you interact with the world, it's an action-reaction kind of thing, which should make stuff really interesting. The honor system is obviously back too, so that way they probably measure how the world is going to interact with you. Now, touching on Arthur a bit, you can shave individual parts of Arthur's beard to various lengths. Another thing as well is that, you know how in San Andreas there's this meme how you go to the barber and suddenly have hair reappearing, as even in GTA 5 too. This is no longer the case. You can only get rid of hair, but you can actually not magically grow it again, which means that you have to wait for a period of time to have that beard grow back if you made a decision that you're not really fully agreeing with, and you're suddenly looking like you made a big mistake with the facial hair that you didn't want to make. Another wonderful thing as well, which is something that I personally really wanted to hear about, is that John Marsden's original voice actor is back as well. So you don't have to fear about him, being voiced by someone completely different. So that's a very good thing too. And if you don't eat or rest, Arthur will suffer from fatigue. He will also lose or gain weight depending on how much food he eats, and he can also swim, and will also become dizzy, or his vision will become blurry if he doesn't eat. So there's definitely a more in-depth RPG kind of thing going on too, where you have to take care of your character and the members around you. But Rockstar really stresses the fact that it's not meant to be annoying or anything like that, but more to make Arthur feel like a person rather than just a bunch of pixels on your screen, which will make the game even more immersive. The main thing you're going to get from this preview, information blowout again, is that Rockstar is really hammering on one thing and one thing only, and that's immersion. Making you feel like you're part of the world and not just, some dude just jumping around in a Spider-Man suit and swinging around and all that stuff. And I'm not bashing Spider-Man here, it's a fantastic game. Go play it if you haven't already. Now touching on the horse a little bit, which is obviously a very big part of the game too. Feeding and grooming your horse builds his level of affection towards you, governing whether they respond to your whistles, if they buck at gunfire, even whether they can perform dressage. Arthur and the horse have stats to level up. Strength, dexterity, instinct, grit, cinema, health and deadeye are mentioned for Arthur, and for the horse it's just cinema and health and the previously mentioned upgrade like being less afraid, etc. If you hold down the trackpad, you can turn on the cinematic camera, you can set a waypoint and hold X and your horse will automatically make its way to the destination. Or you can move around of your own accord. Okay, here's the absolute biggest thing, alright? If any of your parents or anything, you have the sound on, like it's a bit loud, you might want to turn it down a little bit. I'm gonna whisper it. Maybe not, okay. The horse's balls, right? They change with the weather. So if you're in a mountain and it's cold, they're gonna be, you know, a bit smaller. Unless it's a lady horse. But I don't think we're gonna have a lot of lady horses. But anyway, the balls are realistic too for you freaks out there. And touching on the camp and gang members, fellow gang members will also loot downed bodies, so move fast or they will take all your extra cash and ammo. Helping the camp out will expand the types of activities other members will go on with you, and it will change the stories around the campfire. But Rockstar again stresses this is all optional and the gang will survive without you. Gang members also ask you what you want to do or listen to your commands where you go on missions, but it can also go wrong. For example, with Bill Williamson during a raid, he's not exactly the brightest, and he messed up a robbery completely, making the mission take a whole different turn. In another mission though, Bill definitely made up for his killer qualities. Now touching on the big one for me personally, and which is the majority of information that I personally have picked out as well, which I thought was like interesting to share, is weapons and gunplay. Obviously because it's Red Dead Redemption, there's a huge emphasis obviously on the gunplay. We've seen some of it, and I'm sure a lot of you are interested in hearing about it as well. There's a Max Payne-like dynamic kill cam system that will show impressive shots in cinematic style before returning control to the player. When you land a particularly impressive kill, you could also get treated to a slow motion cinematic camera of the bullet traveling to the target before putting them down. This is triggered contextually and takes into account accuracy, balance and other factors. The less your honor, the more brutal the kill cams. This is implied to be a more honorable kill cam. There are lots of weapon crafting options. So far the journalists have seen Molotovs, known as fire bottles, spit point bullets and improved ammos for guns, as well as improved fire and small game arrows for a bow. You can customize weapons at the gunsmith. Upgrades include longer and rifled barrels or improved iron sights, which is obviously going to be really useful if you're playing in first person. Plus you can add engravings to both metal casing and the handle of the weapon, which is going to make, obviously, especially when online turns around, it's going to make every gun look unique, which should be very interesting as well. This is obviously just me speaking out loud. We don't know anything about Red Dead Online yet, so don't hold me on to that. Arthur is limited to the amount of weapons he can carry at a time when he is on foot. He can carry 2 sidearms and 2 rifles, or a rifle and a bow. He is also armed with a hunting knife, throwing weapons such as knives or explosives, and a lasso. And then the way to actually have a bit more of an arsenal is going to be your horse. The way you're going to have basically your weapon wheel is going to your horse. So for example, you have like a selection of rifles, but you can only take out 2 of those rifles when you're going on foot. So that way it's really going to challenge you on what exactly you're wanting to take with you. Do you want to take a balance for like a close quarters kind of thing, or do you want to mix everything up where you're, you know, obviously also prepared for longer ranges? Which again is all about immersion and just makes the game, I guess, more challenging and more interesting as well, instead of just, you know, whipping out an RPG out of your ass like we've been doing in GTA for all these years. Hip firing is also in the game, and when you're aiming, the reticule begins steady, and when Arthur is under fire, it shakes the longer the left trigger is being held down. Using a bolt action rifle, Arthur needs to tap R2 between shots to load the next round, which again, more immersion, and I wonder how that's going to work out and if there's going to be for every single thing. But what I would assume is that there's going to be only with a select few weapons. I think hopefully it's not going to be only that, because I think especially for online that might be quite annoying, and it's probably going to take the pacing out of like what could be a very high paced or fun online mode. But I guess time will tell, and obviously we can't really judge it without having played it as well. Weapons can also degrade over time if not looked after, making them fire slower, for example. Your weapons can also rust if you travel through water. The previously mentioned weapon modifications can also improve range damage and recoil. Arthur can fire in the air to scare wildlife or attract attention, and shotguns allow Arthur to blow heads, arms and legs clean off. So there's gonna be a lot of gore. You can buy gun oil, which you can use to restore all and dirty weapons you have found in the world to working order, restoring their damage and other stats to their proper values. Weapon dual wielding is a skill you have to unlock, and you can actually break your enemy's weapons when shooting them. Weapons can jam, but it's unknown how frequent that will be, and customization will lessen the chances. The movement feels Rockstar-like. Arthur does not instantly move when controlling, but builds up momentum. Shooting reminded one journalist of Max Payne, and weapons you carry are visible on Arthur at all times. But one writer as well describes Red Dead Redemption's gunplay to being similar to Red Dead Redemption, and that there's cover mechanics and also does Deadeye. So that kind of makes me think, is it gonna be like a mixture of the two? I mean, gunplay and the shooting are two completely different things, I guess, because gunplay is more like the gameplay vibe, and you know, shooting is obviously gonna be the whole core thing that is shooting. Fistfights require precise timing in order to get a key hit in. Animations work described as impressive. So that should be hopefully a lot more interesting, especially in online, where hopefully it will be far less laggy and a lot more interesting to do fistfights rather than just keep on button mashing until you hopefully get that guy to be eating some dust. Now there's still a ton more that's probably going to have to be summarized and found out and all that stuff, and the best way to keep up to date with that and even know more about the game is going to be the link in the description to the GTA forum post that I've taken a few things from as well, alongside of my own personal summary as well. Especially the summaries from the magazines that were not in English is definitely worth a read to go through. I didn't pick up literally everything that was in that post because I simply felt like, you know, smaller things like, you know, petting a dog and all that stuff. I guess at this point you can kind of expect it because you can interact with literally everything in this game. But if you want to read more about it, read the summary in the link in the description down below. Definitely worth a read. Give it a few more refreshes as the days go on, because I'm sure there's going to be even more, but I feel like I'm just going to leave it with one video so you don't get bombarded with Red Dead news videos. Very excited for the game. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and also subscribe for more Red Dead videos coming to you very soon as well. Thank you also very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.